guys, Samantha from Jesima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create your very own texture stamp. Now today I'm going to be showing you how to create my Ancient Roots texture stamp, and I'll also show you how to do my Shards texture stamp, which is almost exactly the same. So you're going to need a piece of leftover clay that has been rolled out on the thickest edge of your pasta machine, and that is about 2 millimeters thick for me. Then you're going to need a square cutter, and I'm just going to pop this right in the middle here, and don't cut it, just make a mark. And this is how large my texture stamp is going to be, so it makes sure that I don't carve more than I need to. Then you're going to need a piercing tool of some kind. Any needle tool will work. I prefer to use a thinner one, such as this one. This will work quite well. Okay, and now this mark, it's just so that we don't carve too much, because it is a little time consuming doing this, but it's very much worth it. So anyway, you can see that I've drawn an X just so that I know whereabouts my middle is. And so then I'm just going to stop pressing quite hard. And I'm just going to start in this one section. So I've got 4 different sections, and I'll start each one separately. So the first thing I do is I start drawing out a bunch of lines, like so. And now I've got a little air bubble underneath here, so I just want to quickly press that down. And then once you've done that, I want you to go, once you've drawn out and made these lines nice and thick, like so, I want you to go inside each of the lines and then cross over at random. And just draw more lines. It needs to be really quite random what you're doing here. But they can't all be straight lines, because that's a different texture. Right now we want them all kind of crossing over each other, like so. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. And you'll just continue doing this, and you can make them really small, which is generally what I like to do. I like to have a nice detailed texture. And now you might see that they're all kind of folding into each other, and you might be worrying, oh, now the lines are all squished up. Don't worry about that. After you finish carving the whole texture, we are going to stretch it, and that way all of those lines will open up again. So there you can see. So I just want to finish up this section here so that you can see what I mean. And this is really quite relaxing to do if you don't have much to do and are just looking for something just to spend some time on. This is a really nice, relaxing activity. It does take some time though. Okay, so there, I'm just about done. You can see that they're all kind of meshed over each other, like so, and quite warped and stuff. That's what you're looking for. So now what you would do, if you'd finished the entire thing, then you would go and gently stretch it, and you'd see that those lines would start to open up again. But I only do that after I have finished doing this for my entire piece. So continue just carving, like so, as you like. As much or as little as you like, and then when I've done the entire piece, then we're going to stretch it. And there we go. So that's roughly what you should be looking at. Now you're going to have breaks on the other side, as you can see here. So just pop this to the side, and I'm going to bring over another piece, and this I'm going to roll out to about, I'd say about 1 millimeter thick. Let me just quickly roll that through. Okay. Flip that over onto its side. Grab this, and then just lay it on and make sure that you smooth out the air bubbles. So, there we go. And then you can just take this and just start stretching it. Be careful, you don't want to rip the clay, but stretching it will open up those lines. It's not going to open up all of them, but it'll open up quite a few. There we go. I'm just going to go through and maybe open up just a few myself if I see that there are quite a few that are not open to my liking, like here. Just want to open those up, and you can just run your tool through there and they'll open up quite easily. There we go, almost done. Just going to run through, make sure that I don't miss any others. There's a few on this side that look like they could do with just gently being coaxed open because they've stuck together. It's got to look somewhat even too, like here's some more on this side that are not open. There we go. And that looks pretty good. So I'll just grab that and stretch it one last time. Check on that side to make sure there's no cracks or anything. Okay. Then grab your cutter. Let me see where it is. Here we go. And now your option is you can cut out a nice stamp like so. Or what you can do, since we have extras, is you can just cut it out by hand, which is what I generally do if I'm not selling them. Because then you get some extra, but it does mean that your shape is not going to be perfectly square. But it allows you more room to make your design. Okay, and then one last check. There are one or two along the edge here that I'm not happy with. And there we go, that's just about it. Now we're going to put that into the oven, and you want to bake this for at least an hour at Primrose recommended temperature. I usually bake them for about an hour. If you want to be safe, you can bake them a little bit longer. And then when it comes out of the oven, I'll show you what the texture looks like. Okay, so here it is out of the oven, and now we are ready to make a reverse of it. So what you're going to do is just going to dust the stamp with some cornstarch, like so, and pounce it so that it actually gets into the cracks of the stamp, because that's where your clay is most likely to stick. Okay, and then I'm just going to bang it off. And just give it a blow and a final brush off. I'm just doing that off to the side because I don't want to get the cornstarch everywhere. Okay, and then this remaining cornstarch, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, which is another piece of leftover clay, and I'm just going to rub it around to pick up all of that excess cornstarch, and then I will brush that on, like so. And what it should look like is it should have a purely matte surface. You should be able to see any shiny spots. Okay, and leave the other side with no cornstarch on it. Just pop that down. And now, if you don't have cornstarch on the side, you're going to need some sort of a release. And so what I like to do is I like to use this wet sponge. Works quite nicely. And then I'm just going to start from one end and I'm going to press. And I don't want to use my roller, but if you want, you can. I just find that it works better when I do it like this. This is how I generally press my textures in. So just continue moving up your texture. If you have a roller and you want to use it, by all means use it. You would use it with the sponge underneath it, so that it doesn't stick to the roller. Okay. And once we're done, this should lift off the stamp fairly easily. You might want to go around in a circular pattern around the stamp releasing, but this is ultimately what you should end up with. Okay, so now I'm going to trim that, so. And now I have a spot over here that I didn't press in as well as I would like, so I'm just going to trim that bit off and not make that part of my texture stamp. And this is why I tend to make my textures bigger than I actually need them when I'm making my own, because if you make a reverse and you don't like a bit, you can just chop it off because you'll have plenty of texture left. So you can see that's the Enchanted Roots texture. I'll make a nice veneer with this to show you, but this is going to create the opposite texture for this. So this is going to create this texture is going to create this texture. So now I'm going to put this into the oven for a full hour at pretty much recommended temperature, and then I can make some nice veneers, show you what to do with them, and in general to show you what the effect looks like. Okay, so now that both of our stamps are baked and ready to use, let's make 2 different veneers with them. So I'm going to start off with this one. What we're going to do is we're just going to grab a touch of cornstarch, just brush that over the surface, grab a little bit more cornstarch, and I've rolled out some white polymer clay on the thickest setting of my pasta machine over here. Just grab that. I'm just going to brush some more cornstarch onto that. Okay. And then I'm going to also brush the back because I'm just going to use my roller this time around. Okay, so that should not feel sticky at all. If you have any sticky areas, or you can feel sticky areas, brush some more starch onto that, because you don't want your roller sticking to this, otherwise it will cause all sorts of issues. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to stand up and I'm going to roll. There, I'll just roll once in every direction. And gently lift it out. And it might not be very visible on the white, but you can see that that's created a duplicate of our previous one. So now I'm going to do the same with this one. It's basically the exact same process, so I'll just quickly do that. Okay, then once you've done that, just trim up the excess, like so, and you can just pop that back in with your white. So now one of these I want to do in some Lumiere paint, and another one I want to do in pastel. So I think this one will do with the paint, so I'll start with that. And I'm going to be using this brand of paint here. So let's see, what colours do we want to use? Okay, just getting those out quickly. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Halo Violet Gold, the Halo Blue Gold, Pearlescent Emerald, Sunset Gold, and Pearlescent Turquoise. So whenever you're going to use these bottles, give them a good shake before you use them. Okay. And I'm going to use each colour individually. I'll just grab a brush. There we go. You can see everything I'm doing there. Okay, I'm just going to put a little bit on there. Just going to brush this over the surface. Like so. And basically I'll bring in the other colours as soon as I've painted this strip of purple, and I'll paint a strip for those colours, and I'll just go around the entire way, and you'll see what I mean when I'm done. Very simple. I'm not going to go for anything too complex here. Just something that looks pretty. Now when you're doing this, make sure to get it into the grooves in the texture, but also make sure that it's a nice even coat so that you don't have big gobs of paint sitting in some areas and really thin amounts of paint in other areas. So that's why I'm using a nice small brush so that I can get into those grooves and work. Okay, there we go. So here is how that looks. So now this is not done yet. I'm just going to put this off to the side and that can dry. And I'm just going to use a wet wipe to quickly wipe up this excess here. Okay, and then we can move on to the next veneer, which I'm probably going to do in pastels. But the first thing is we need to make sure the outwork surface is nice and clean. There we go, that will do. Okay. So now, only problem with this is that it does still have cornstarch on it. So I want to show you a quick trick to help remove that cornstarch. So just take some isopropyl alcohol. Any concentration will work. The higher is generally better. I'm just going to give that a nice thick spray. And then grab a wet wipe and gently brush over the surface. And this is not going to get rid of all the cornstarch, but it will begin to remove some of it, just so that those pastels can stick. And I'm just very gently brushing because you can end up breaking off some of your texture. Like there, you can see that broke off a little. So just be careful when doing that. Okay, then just let that dry quickly. Okay, and so while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to bring over the pastels. And that's the brand, so let me just open that up and you'll be able to see all the pastels here. Quite pretty. So now, although it's my ancient roots stamp, I want to be going with a blue and purple look, so that it kind of has almost like a starburst effect. So I want to have that one, and that one, and that one. Should be good. There we go. Now what I typically like to do is I like to take this and I like to gently scrape the pastel on, like so, to the area that I want it to be in. Not too difficult. There we go. Then I'll take the same fluffy brush that I like to use with my cornstarch, and I'm going to pounce, like so. And then I'll just do that around the whole thing. Like so. Okay, then once you've done it in that round motion, you want to start brushing off your excess. Like so, and this will just smooth things out. And now if you see an area like over here needs a little bit more of this purple, just scrape a bit more in, pounce first, and then brush. Okay. And then this brushing motion, it kind of highlights the surface texture. Hopefully you can see that. and it generally will take the darkest colour and do that. So I'm just going to scrape a tiny bit of this dark blue down and just brush my brush through it. And then brush over the surface again. And that actually might bring over an even darker blue. It's kind of nice denim colour. Brush a little on, pounce my brush over it so it's nicely evenly distributed. And then brush over the surface, and that generally will just take the raised texture and will give it a highlight, which works really well. Okay. Just going to do that a few times until we get a nice amount of colour over that. Like so. There we go. Then I'm just going to grab these pastels, pop them back into their correct spots. Okay. Pick this up and then again clean up your work surface. And by now our other one should be dry, so we can do something with that. So just pop that all to the side. And let's have a look at this. Let's make sure that it's dry. It looks mostly dry. I might want to leave this a little bit longer. There we go. Now what I want to do is, let's see, I want to brush over a top colour. So have a look. Let's have a look through our pastels, see which one of these would work best. Okay, and I've decided to go with black. Just going to scrape a bit onto the tile, like so. And I'm going to bring over the same brush. And again, we're going to just pounce it in there and brush. Okay. And I'm not sure if that's doing what I want it to do. It might not actually stick to these paints very well. Okay, so that's not working, but I do want to highlight it, so let's see how could we do it otherwise. Okay, so another plan is actually going to be to just wipe off some of the top area. This. I'm just going to be running my wet wipe over the surface, but I'm not rubbing very hard. I'm just being very gentle and allowing the paint to get wet and come off on its own. And this is a nice way to highlight texture actually, better than the black. Just continue doing this and it will leave that Lumiere paint in the recesses. Okay, and here it is now that it's finished, and I quite like how that turned out, especially if you put resin on this. It would actually turn out really quite pretty. So that's basically it for today's tutorial. It's a very nice stamp, it will work very well. Remember, each time it's going to look a little different because of it's a fairly organic stamp, so yours probably won't look like mine. I mean, I've made the stamp many times and each time it looks fairly different, and so it's a really fun stamp to work with. It has this beautiful organic look, but you can see it works really well as a texture. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please let me know in the comments below, and if you would like more texture stamp tutorials, I'll be happy to do some more, so just let me know in the comments below and I'll start working on them. If you have a favourite stamp from my Etsy shop but you can't purchase it at the moment because I can't ship internationally at the moment, choose whichever stamp you would like me to do, such as the Frozen Fractures one. Let me know in the comments below and I will set about doing a video for you. And so that's basically it for this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.